Learning English with the Bible sounds crazy, right? But what if I told you that every delay, every silence, every not yet you've faced has been perfectly timed to shape not just your faith, but the way you speak, think, and live? You've watched videos, repeated phrases, even prayed for fluency, but somehow you still feel stuck, still unheard, still late. And maybe it's not just about language. Maybe you've been waiting for direction, for opportunity, for purpose, and nothing's happening. But what if the silence isn't rejection? What if the delay isn't failure? What if it's God's strategy to build your voice before He gives you the mic? In the next few minutes, we're going to explore how trusting God's timing transforms not only your spiritual walk, but your ability to speak with power, patience, and purpose. You'll discover lessons from the Bible that will unlock your confidence, reshape how you see waiting, and show you why fluency is not just about words, it's about wisdom. Stay with me, because the thing you're waiting for might be waiting on you to understand this truth. Lesson 1. Delays aren't denials. How God's not yet builds your voice and vocabulary. Have you ever felt like everyone around you is moving forward, getting jobs, traveling the world, learning faster, and you're stuck in place, waiting for something to finally happen? It's frustrating. But what if I told you that your delay might actually be the design? Sometimes God's answer isn't no, it's not yet. And in that not yet season, something powerful happens. You're being trained in ways you can't see yet. Think about learning English. You might feel like you're not improving, like the right words don't come out fast enough. But every time you wait, listen, reflect, you're growing, not just in language, but in faith. Because waiting forces you to dig deeper, to speak with intention, to build a voice rooted in wisdom, not anxiety. And here's where it gets deeper. The Bible is filled with stories of people who had to wait. Joseph, David, even Jesus. Their calling didn't come instantly, but the delay didn't mean denial. It meant growth. Now think about your English journey. Maybe you think you're too late to learn fluently. Maybe you're comparing your journey to others who seem more advanced. But here's the truth. Your pace is not a problem, it's a process. And in that process, God is refining not just your grammar, but your grit. Every slow conversation, every misunderstood phrase, every silent prayer in a second language is shaping something eternal. This isn't just about learning English. This is about learning how to trust the silence, to embrace the stretch, and to speak when the time is right. And just when you think it's over, God might say, "Now you're ready." So, what if you're not waiting too long but just long enough? Lesson 2. When silence speaks louder, why God seems quiet. When you want answers now, have you ever cried out for direction, clarity, even just a sign, and all you got back was silence? You want a clear voice, but all you get is quiet. You ask, God, are you even listening? And still, nothing. But what if that silence isn't God's absence, but His presence in disguise? Sometimes God stops speaking not because He's far, but because He's already said enough. Like a teacher who stays silent during the test, not because they don't care, but because they've already prepared you. In your English journey, this shows up too. You feel stuck, unsure how to express yourself. You expect fluent sentences, but what comes out is broken. And still, you show up. That quiet frustration, it's not a dead end. It's a classroom. Let's go deeper. Silence has a way of surfacing what noise hides. When you're not distracted by answers, you start to notice what's really inside your fears, your habits, your true desires. Are you chasing results or building roots? Are you asking for speed when He's building strength? The same applies to your spoken English. When progress seems silent, it forces you to examine your process. Are you practicing with purpose? Are you focusing on pronunciation but forgetting confidence? Silence challenges us to listen not just outwardly, but inwardly. What do you believe when nothing seems to be moving? That's where transformation happens. And here's the twist. When God finally speaks, it's never rushed. His voice always arrives on time sharp, clear, and full of power. So maybe the silence you're experiencing isn't a punishment. Maybe it's positioning. And what if the quiet season is preparing you to speak louder, clearer, and with unshakable faith? Lesson 3, you're not behind, you're being prepared. What waiting seasons teach about faith and fluency. We live in a world obsessed with speed, faster results, quicker success, instant answers. But spiritual growth, real learning, that takes time. Maybe you've looked at others and thought, they're so far ahead, I'll never catch up. That lie creeps in slowly, whispering that you're falling behind, that it's too late. But let me ask you, what if you're not behind at all? What if you're right on schedule for what God is preparing you for? Think of David. Before he became king, he spent years in the wilderness, away from the throne, with nothing but sheep and silence. Was that delay punishment? No. It was preparation. And in your life, the same thing might be happening. The waiting season feels like stillness, but it's not. It's a season of invisible construction, laying the foundation you'll need when your moment finally comes. Now apply this to your English journey. You may feel stuck, like your vocabulary isn't growing fast enough, your pronunciation still trips, or you can't find the courage to speak in public. But just because you're not seeing results doesn't mean growth isn't happening. Sometimes the most powerful breakthroughs happen underground. Seeds don't sprout the moment you plant them. They break open silently in the dark before anyone ever sees the first green leaf. You're not falling behind, you're breaking open. This is your time to be refined, not rushed. To go deeper, not just further. The fluency you're chasing isn't just about speaking clearly, it's about speaking with strength. And strength takes time. So, the next time you feel like everyone's ahead of you, pause, breathe. Remind yourself, I'm not behind. I'm being built. Because when God finally brings you to that moment of fluency both in language and in life, you'll be ready to speak with power, not panic. So, what's He building in you right now? Lesson 4. The power of speaking with patience, how trusting timing changes the way you use words. Have you ever said something too soon and regretted it right after? Maybe it was during an argument or in a moment of fear, or simply because you felt pressured to speak before you were ready. Our words are powerful, but timing gives them weight. When we trust God's timing, we also learn to speak with patience. That means we don't rush to respond. We listen first. We wait, we reflect, and suddenly our words carry wisdom, not just noise. That's why Proverbs says, a gentle answer turns away wrath. Patience is not passive, it's powerful. In your journey of learning English, this truth shows up more than you realize. Maybe you're so focused on speaking quickly that you overlook the value of speaking meaningfully. Fluency isn't speed, it's confidence under control, and confidence comes from knowing when to speak and when to wait. Now imagine this. You're in a conversation in English, and your mind starts racing. You want to sound smart, fluent, impressive, but instead your words stumble. Why? Because pressure makes us perform, patience lets us connect. When you slow down, breathe, and trust that it's okay to pause, your English becomes not just better, it becomes believable. The same applies spiritually. Patience isn't about saying less, it's about saying what matters at the right moment. When you speak with patience, your words have space to land, to heal, to build. In that kind of language, that's the language of faith. So if you've been rushing trying to get your words out faster to prove your fluency, maybe it's time to shift the goal. Don't just speak more, speak wiser. Because the person who waits to speak often says what no one forgets. And that's not just about English. That's about impact. So ask yourself, are you trying to impress or to express? Lesson 5. Missing opportunities or being made ready. How God's timing protects you from settling. Have you ever been so desperate for change that you were ready to take the first thing that came your way? A job offer, a relationship, even an idea about your future that didn't quite feel right, but it was something, so you almost said yes. That's how many of us miss the better by settling for the now. But here's the hard truth. God's timing doesn't just deliver blessings, it protects you from lesser ones. Sometimes the reason you didn't get that opportunity is because it wasn't worthy of you. What looked like rejection was really redirection. And when you trust God's timing, You don't have to panic when doors close. You learn to praise while waiting for the right one to open. In your journey with English, maybe you've felt stuck. Maybe you applied for something and were told your English isn't good enough yet. That hurts. But what if that delay is saving you from settling into a role that doesn't reflect your potential? Let's flip the script. Imagine accepting something before you're ready. You walk into a room where you're expected to communicate, but you haven't been trained. You haven't been refined. That's not a breakthrough. That's a breakdown waiting to happen. God loves you too much to let you step into something half prepared. The delay might be painful, but it's also merciful. It's sharpening you, not shaming you. Think about Moses. He spent 40 years in the desert before God used him to speak to Pharaoh. That time wasn't wasted. It was sacred preparation. In your English journey, that might look like hours of practice, awkward conversations, or quiet moments when you think, will I ever be fluent? And God whispers, not yet but soon. Because when He finally opens that door, you won't just walk through it to learn it, and you'll know that you didn't miss out. You were being made ready. So the real question is, are you chasing opportunity or preparing for destiny? Now you see at every delay, every silent moment, every frustrating pause in your journey wasn't wasted. It was weaving something deeper into you. These 5 lessons weren't just about learning to trust God's timing, they were about learning to trust your own growth, your own process, your own voice. You don't need to rush to prove your value. You don't need to chase what was never meant for you. Because when you walk in step with God, even the silence has purpose. Even the waiting builds strength. So now I want to hear from you. Which of these lessons hit you the hardest? Have you been doubting yourself because of the delay? Do you see you're not yet differently now? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one. And if you felt something shift in your heart or your mind today, make sure to hit subscribe and turn on the notifications. This isn't just another channel. This is your journey, a place where your faith and your fluency grow together. So don't just scroll past this. Be part of it. Trust the process. Trust the timing. And most of all, trust the one who never rushes, but never fails.